Hello everybody, and welcome to Understanding Forge, where we take the complexities in and out of Halo 5 Forge and break it down for the layman. For our first episode of the series, we're going to be discussing Lightmap. Lighting is one of the fundamental and most important facets of any map, and understanding Lightmap will allow you to build immersive and really detailed environments. Lightmap you might recognize as one of your budgets in Halo 5 displayed at the bottom of your screen. Lightmap has to do with the measure of the quality of not only your light, but the quality of your shadows as well, and that's an extremely important point. Also keep in mind that the relationship between the Lightmap budget and the quality of both light and shadows is inverse, meaning that the lower your budget is, the higher quality your lighting and shadows will be. Lightmap budget is consumed by any item that has the option Light Bake turned on. That just means that this item is requesting to use part of the Lightmap to have higher quality shading and shadow throws. On average, items that are larger and more complex take up more Lightmap. You'll see here that this primitive simple block takes up very little Lightmap. As where the largest terrain piece in the game takes up quite a bit just by itself. As some of you may already know, you can exceed 100% on your light map. That's because this is a soft cap budget, and what soft cap means in this instance is that you can exceed the recommended amount, i.e. the budget for objects is a hard cap, meaning you cannot have more objects than given to you inside the budget limit. Exceeding 100% on your light map while permitted by the game is typically not good for any Forge map. You start to see really low quality shadows and lighting overall, and several lighting glitches, including items becoming dark or not receiving any lighting besides what they have when they spawn. On average, a cap you want to set for yourself while forging should sit somewhere around 85%. Between 85% to 90% budget is where changes in lighting and shadow quality becomes most noticeable to most players. Now that we understand how Lightmap works and some issues that come with it, let's talk about some ways to get really high quality lighting in immersive environments. First, let's talk about artificial lighting, and in this sense, artificial lighting is any time we the players create lighting outside of what the canvas naturally generates. In my hand I have an invisible light, and there are two types of artificial lighting, point and spot. Point lights affect a large area of a space, as where spotlights are very focused and can be directed in one specific area. Let's tackle some ambient lighting. I want to make it seem as though these glowing rocks are emanating light outward in this cavern. To do so, I'm going to grab an invisible light object and switch it to point. Now, one thing you want to do is avoid using white light. It's very easy to do that, but you typically want to pick a softer color on the wheel here. In this instance, I'm using one of the purples. Now scroll down to your brightness. By default, it'll be set to 50, but when doing ambient light, typically you want to take this number very low, somewhere between 5 to 15 typically, depending on how dark your workspace already is. Now I adjust the size of my light to fit the cavern space. And just like that, I have good ambient lighting. Now let's use a spotlight. In this instance, I want to cast a very defined light from this window. I can use a spotlight to do so. I select my color and set the light to match a brightness that I'm going for. Typically we're going to go downward from 50 again, but usually not as low as we would for an ambient light. Now I adjust my light to match the angle of the window. Just like that, I've got a cool window light. Now that we understand how to use lights, let's talk about Light Bake. Like mentioned before, an object has an option called Light Bake, which is more or less its request to have higher quality lighting and shadows relevant to the light the canvas is creating. The more objects you have with Light Bake enabled, the higher your Lightmap budget is going to increase because more objects are making requests for lighting. But not all objects require light bake to be on. What happens if you turn light bake off? Well, each spot on the canvas has a default light setting, if you will, for all objects. And while typically this default light setting is not as dynamic as it would be with light bake on, it consumes 0 of your budget. And I'll give a few examples. A really good example is the large terrain pieces. In most cases, you can turn light bake off on these pieces because the lighting they receive from the canvas and the lighting they receive naturally with light bake turned off is typically the same. This is extremely important because these terrain pieces typically eat up a lot of a light map on a map, and if you can cut that out, you can save yourself a lot of budget. Now let's say you have a map with a lot of interior space. Objects that are fully encased or hidden away from the light emitter on the canvas itself can have light bake turned off. Well, the next step is for you to go out and try this. This concludes this lesson for now. Drop any questions and comments you have below in the comments section, and like the video if you like it, and share with somebody that might want to learn something about Forge. We will talk more about lighting in the future. Suggest topics for later videos down below as well. If you'd like to show your support, please consider subscribing. It really helps me out and I really appreciate it. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.